Hello, I'm Johnny, an IT/DE doctoral student at Nova Southeastern University. This is a short informational video on the rule of thirds. Did you ever wonder why some photographs grab your attention while others may seem void of interest to you? In this short video, I will demonstrate what the rule of thirds is and is not. Myself being a high school golf coach and loving the outdoor setting, I decided to use the golf course and some photographs of my players to gain some insight into the use of the rule of thirds. Let's begin by looking at what is meant by the phrase rule of thirds.
This is not the rule of thirds. No, not this either. At last, now we're getting somewhere. The rule of thirds is basically a rule of thumb to engage the viewer and to draw attention to key elements within the scene. As you can see, as illustrated by this grid formed by 4 golf clubs. The rule of thirds may be defined as a principle of photographic and graphic composition in which an area is divided into thirds both vertically and horizontally, and the centers of interest are located near the intersections of these lines, as illustrated by the golf ball in the upper left at the intersection of the first horizontal and vertical lines. In this photograph, there are 2 shore lines. The one in the upper part of the photograph is aligned with the first horizontal line, while the shore line in the bottom of the photograph is aligned with the bottom horizontal line. By adding 2 vertical lines, the grid for the rule of thirds is now formed. In lay terms, using this grid will guide the viewer to elements at key locations along or near any of the intersecting horizontal or vertical lines. In this photograph, the key elements are located here and here. Opposed to what one might believe, the center is less interesting and actually may take away from the overall effect of the visual. Notice how the individual in this photograph is in the center and is not positioned at the intersection of any of the lines on the grid. One should keep in mind the best position for the dominant element is the upper left intersection of the horizontal and vertical lines. The visual is more pleasing to the eye when the elements are balanced and the key points are emphasized. Let's take a look at this photograph. The large golf ball is located somewhat in the upper left quadrant, but the trees tend to be the dominant elements here and take away from the golf ball and the text. Notice how much better this version is. Simply by using the zoom function on the camera and keeping the rule of thirds in mind, this photograph now draws your attention to the golf ball and the text. When the grid is applied, one can see how the text aligns with the first horizontal line and is intertwined between the first and second vertical lines. Just keep in mind in photographs, the most single important factor is subject placement at key points along the intersecting lines of the grid, and one should make sure the main subject is not always in the direct center. In summary, the rule of thirds is a rough guideline to keep in mind when one is using a digital camera, camcorder, or designing a PowerPoint presentation, or even in the development of a video podcast. Regardless of the type of media used, the rule of thirds gives viewers a sense of direction, and it makes the photographer or media designer look like a true professional.
That concludes this short presentation on the rule of thirds. Now, you know what the rule of thirds is and what it is not. I hope you can use some of this information to help improve your photographs.